Hi everyone, and welcome to our next maths lesson. We are looking at dividing numbers by 100 today. Some of you might have noticed that I put on the wrong date for our first maths lesson, but I had noticed that, so I have corrected it, and I've got the correct date today, I hope. So yes, we are looking at dividing numbers by 100, and once again, our words of the day are place value, and I'm sure you've worked out already why that might be, how important our place value columns are. So I'm just going to get my pen up and ready for when I need it. So to start off with today, to warm up our brains, we're going to think about square numbers. And I would like you to just pause the video and I stop talking. Think about what a square number is and what the first 8 square numbers are. So just pause the video for a minute, see if you can figure out and calculate what the first 8 square numbers are. Okay, so we're going to go through that together. So square numbers are numbers you get by multiplying a number by itself. So for example, if you do 6 times 6, the answer is 36. So 36 is a square number because it's the answer from timesing a number by itself. If you do 13 times 13, you get 169. So 169 is a square number. So we're just going to have a quick look at some pictures to help us understand why they're called square numbers. So this is a visual representation of the first 6 square numbers. So this one here represents the first square number because it's 1 times 1, which is 1. And you can see that makes a nice square. Here we have the second square number, which is 2 by 2. So 2 times 2 is 1, 2, 3, 4. And you can see you can make a square out of it. The third square number is 3 times 3. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So it's a square number. As you can see, it makes a square shape. This is the fourth square number. You're seeing the pattern now. So we've got 4 times 4. And if you count those squares, you'll see that there's 16. So 16 is the fourth square number. This one here is 5 times 5, or 5 by 5, we might say, because we've got the width of 5 and the length, or the height of 5. 5 times 5 is, if you count, 25. Once again, we have a nice square shape. The last one on here, and obviously not the final square number, the last one I've got on my pictures, is 6 times 6, or 6 by 6. So 6 across, 6 down, and if you count them, you'll see that there's 36 little squares making up that square. So let's just have a look at the answers for the first 8 square numbers. So 1 times 1 is 1, so 1 is a square number. 2 times 2 is 4. 3 times 3 is 9, 4 times 4 is 16, 5 times 5 is 25, 6 times 6 is 36, 7 times 7 is 49, and 8 times 8 is 64. If you had some multi-link cubes, which we have used before in class, then you would be able to show that they're square numbers by making them into perfect square with those cubes. Obviously, there's more square numbers than that because we've stopped at 8 times 8, and you can keep going up forever and ever and ever. But we'll stop there for today as we're just recapping, and we have done square numbers before, so that was just a little recap on square numbers. Okay, so we're looking at estimation again. Once again, this is a skill that we don't often get a chance to look at, but it's a very important mathematical skill. It really helps us to be able to estimate the correct answers. And these will just help us to build up those skills. So the question here is, how tall is Mrs. Nguyen? So once again, we need to use what we know. And I do have to admit that I did get it wrong in the maths lesson yesterday. Not by very much, but I didn't check and I misremembered. I thought Mr. Stidell was 6'3", but now I've checked. I know he was 6'4". So maybe that's why he didn't get exactly the right height for the Ferris wheel. You can blame me if you like. So he is 6'4", so we can use that information to try and figure out how tall Mrs. Nguyen is. You can see that at the moment she looks a little bit taller than him, but you might have noticed that she's got a little bit of advantage there because she's standing upon a chair. So you need to take these things into account. So she's a little bit taller than him, but she's standing on a chair. So do you think she is taller than Mr. Stidell? Or do you think she is smaller? And then can you figure out how tall you think she is? And have a little pause, have a think about that. You could also think about a height that she definitely is not. So I could say she's definitely not 10 foot tall, because that would be considerably taller than Mr. Stadell. And I don't think that she is considerably taller than Mr. Stadell. So what height can you think of that she definitely isn't? And what height do you think that she is? So just pause the video and then I'll reveal the answer. Okay, so let's see how tall she is. Okay, so we've got two heights here. We have the height from the floor to the top of her head, which is 6'6" or 2.03 meters. And then we have the height from the floor to where she is standing on the chair, which is 1 foot and 4 inches or 40 centimeters, about 41 centimeters there. So what do you think we need to do to work out how tall she is? So just pause the video and say out loud what you think you need to do to work out how tall she is. So we've got two heights there, and we need to work out the difference because her height is from here to here. So it's not the whole 6'8", it's not the whole 6'8", and it's definitely not just that 1'4". So what we need to do is 6'8", take away 1'4" to work out the answer. And hopefully you have figured out that the answer is 5'4". So Mrs. Nguyen is 5'4". Just get rid of that so we can move on to the next question. Okay, so this is just a reminder of what we did in the last lesson. So in the last lesson we divided it by 10. So I'd just like you to pause the video and remind yourself, however quickly you like, which direction it moves in and how many places does it move if you divide a number by 10. So does it move left? Or does it move right? And then how many places it moves. So just pause the video and decide what you think. Okay, so if you divide a number by 10, so let's look at the number 80. If I were to divide that by 10, I know that there are 8 tens in 80. So I can move that 8 1 to the right and I get my answer. So when you divide by 10, you move 1 space to the right. So I wonder if you can figure out how many spaces you move and which direction if you're dividing by 100, which is what we are doing today. Okay. Just noticed, I'm pausing, I've just noticed that for some reason the wrong LI has come up, but you know that we are dividing by 100. Okay, so let's come back now, the right one. Okay, so this is what we usually do in class. This is where we put these questions up and I give you a certain amount of time and you get on with them and using what you know already without me talking through the questions. So I'd like you to just pause the video for a couple of minutes or however long you need to complete these questions and then play the video again and I'll go through the answers with you. So I'll give these a go now. Right, so if we look at number 1 first, it says 100 equals something ones. So what we want to know is how many ones are there in 100. I know that there are 100 ones in 100. Okay, let's just get into the next slide so I can show you that. So there's 100 ones in 100. This one is asking, there are 1 what? 110. So 110s equals what? 1 what? I know that 110s means 100 times 10. And I know that that is 1,000. Okay, we have this question, which I believe we had yesterday, so you should be pretty good at this one. So it's asking how many pennies in a pound. So 1p times what is 1 pound? We know that's 100. The next one is slightly different. How many pennies in 10 pounds? So this number here is 10 times as big as this one. So all we need to do is times this number here by 10. So what is 100 times 10? Everything moves 1 place value column to the left. So my 1's going to move from my hundreds into my thousands. And then there'll be nothing in there. So I know that down here, I'm going to have 1,000. The next one says 1/10 of 800 is the same as saying 800 divided by what? So this 1/10, the 1 represents my whole. My whole here is 800, so that's the same as saying 800 divided by 10. And over here, this is saying 1/100th of 800, which is the same as 800 divided by what? The 1 at the top represents my whole, so this is the same as saying 1/100th, 800 divided by 100. And I know there's 8 100s in 800. So hopefully those are the answers that you got. Get rid of these, go to my next slide. So we are moving on now to dividing by 100. Okay, so here I have a whole, and we're going to see how much that is worth. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hundreds, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 hundreds. So what do you think this shape is worth? Got 10 hundreds, 10 times 100. I know that that is 1,000. So here we have 1,000. So it's 1,000 there. We're going to change it now. We have 1, 2, 3 hundreds in there. And my question is asking how many groups of 100 do we have here? So you just need to count how many separate groups you have of 100. How many 100s make up 300? So we have 1, 2, 3 groups of 100 here. So the answer is 3. Let's look at the next one. Very, very similar question. We are asking 700 divided by 100, or how many groups of 100 are in 700? So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We have 7 groups of 100, which is the same as saying 7 divided by 100 is 7. Okay, and then we have 1,000 divided by 100. So we have, over here we have, same as we had at the beginning, we have 10 groups of 100 in 1,000, which tells us that 1,000 divided by 100 is 10. I think I can get rid of these now. Get rid of the next slide. Oh no, got another one. Okay, so the next one is 3,000 divided by 100. How many groups of 100 are there in 3,000? I can see that these 3 things are the same, and I know that there's 10 groups 100 in there, so there must be 10 groups in there. 10 groups in there. I'm sure you've decided already in your head what you need to do with those 10s. And I imagine you have figured out that yes, indeed, you need to add those together to work out how many groups of 10 in 3,000. So there are 10 plus 10 plus 10, 30 groups of 100 in 3,000. Ignore that one, I was supposed to delete that, I forgot that. So our next question is 2,100 divided by 100. So let's have a look at doing this. Once again, we're just showing these before we look at the place value column method, just to show you it in different ways to help you understand all the ways you can think about it when you are approaching these questions. So these are base 10 or Dean's blocks that we are using here, which we have used in school before. So we're just going to have a look at what they are worth. So we've got 2 blue blocks and 1 green. You might have in your head already what they are worth. We know that our total has to be 2,100, and we've got 2 of one and 1 of another. So I imagine you might have figured out what they're worth already, but we're just going to look at it. So we have 2,100, which is 2,000s, which is the blue ones, plus 100, which is the green one. And let's just have a look at what makes up that 1,000. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 hundreds in that 1,000. So yeah, 10 hundreds is 1,000. And we have 2 of those. And we have this extra 100 here. So I've got 10 hundreds there, 10 hundreds there, and 1 there. So 20 hundreds in the 2,000. Then I've got an extra 1 there. So there are 21 hundreds altogether. So 2,100 divided by 100 is 21. So I've looked at how many groups of 100 in 2,100. My answer is 21. Okay, so we're going to look at another question. So it's dividing by 100, just in a slightly different way again. So Eva has 300 1p coins. How many £1 coins does this equal to? So we're going to look at this in a part-whole model. So you need to remember that part-whole models look at adding to get the total. So we have our total here, which is 300 pence, and then we're going to split it up into different pounds. I know that 100 pence is worth £1, so I've got one lot of 100. Then I've got another, so that's £2. Then I've got another. So my part-whole model, if we're representing it like this, we have 1, 2, 3 pounds to make up 300 pence. And then we get to our place value column method. So before we looked at, if we divided by 10, we're going to move 1 to, sorry, if we multiplied by 10, we're going to move 1 to the left. If we divided by 10, we're going to move 1 to the right. So what we're looking at here, we're looking at moving it 1 to the left. If we take the number 1, the simplest number you can put into the ones column, times it by 100. 1 times 100, one lot of 100 is 100. So I'd have a 1 in here and 2 zeros there. And that would show me that if I times by 100, I move 2 columns to the left. So 100 times the size is 2 columns to the left. 100 times 10 is 1,000. Sorry, 10 times 100 is 1,000. Get a bit confused there. 10 times 100 is 1,000. So it's just showing you that it's moving over 2 columns to the left. How about if we divide? So dividing is the inverse of multiplication. So let's just have a look at dividing. We will see that 1,000 divided by 100 is going to move you over 2 columns to the right. 100 divided by 100. How many hundreds in 100? There is 1. It's going to move over 2 columns. So that 1 from my 100 divided by 100. How many groups of 100 in there? There's 1. So I can move everything and show you that there's, if I divide that by 100, there's 1 in the ones column. So remember, if you divide by 100, you move 2 place value columns to the right because it means it's 1/100th of the size. So to find 1/100th of something, we divide by 100. So 2 squares to the left, multiply by 100, 2 squares to the right, divide by 100. Okay, so our question here is 4,100 divided by 100. So I'm going to do the digits first. Let me show a little animation. Okay, so I've got my 4,100, and it's just showing you there what you do with the arrows. So the 4 needs to move 2 to the right, it's going to end up there. The 1 moves 2 to the right, it's going to end up there. Just get rid of these and go back to the animation. So we're going to look at it now with some manipulatives, so things you can move around to help you understand it. And we're going to look at using counters here, or virtual counters. So we have 4 1,000s, which equals 4,000, 1 100, which equals 100, and we're going to see what happens here. So my 100 moves 2 to the right, becomes 1, which is 1/100th of the size of 100. My 4 in my 4,000s moves 2 to the right and becomes 4 tens, which is worth 40, and 40 is 1/100th of 1,000. Okay, so if you get stuck today, you can go back to using your place value columns to help you out, moving 2 to the right if you're dividing by 100, 1 to the right if you're dividing by 10. So 4,100 divided by 100 is 41. 41 is 1/100th the size of 4,100. Okay, this next question says something times 100 is 3,200. So we're working backwards here. So if we want to do the inverse, something times 100 is that we need to divide that by 100 to work backwards. So if we start with 3,200 and we divide by 100, just tell yourself or whisper or say out loud if you want to, how many place value columns is that going to move to the right if you divide by 100? 2. So see if you can just write down what the answer is. We've got 3 tens, 2 ones. The answer is 32. 32 is 1/100th the size of 3,200. And that's just showing you going backwards there with the inverse. 3,200 is 100 times the size of 32. Okay, so remember, there's lots of different ways to think about dividing by 100. You have your Dean's blocks, you have your place value columns with either digits or counters. You could draw things in and move them around if that helps you. Just remember all those different methods we've looked at for helping. And the main thing, your words of the day, place value columns, you move them, the numbers 2 to the right, so they're 100th of the size in your place value columns to divide by 100. Once again, there'll be an activity set for you on Teams in a quiz-style multiple choice assignment, and you should get automatic feedback on that with how it's doing, and you can use that to tell me if there's any questions that you found hard, and I can give you feedback on that during the live feedback session, or if it's too complicated to do during that live feedback session, I can give you a bit of individual feedback another way. Thank you very much for listening again and for all your hard work, and I will speak to you again soon.